Hey everyone, we're back for another workout of the day. Today is 4 rounds for time. Feel free to set a time cap on that. It's called fourth gear. It's going to be 10 arm extended weighted squats, 20 sit-ups, 10 slam balls, 20 kettlebell swings, 10 leg lifts over an object, and 20 ab twists. So we're going to go through all of those movements and the modifications, and then you can get started. Okay, so the first movement is going to be our arm extended weighted squats. So what is that? Well, first, before we get into the weighted arm extended part, we're going to just go over the squat. So we want to make sure our chest is always upright. Our chest is always upright, our back is always straight, and we want to make sure our core is tight, especially when we start to add the weight. So our toes are gonna be slightly pointed outward. Our feet are gonna be about hip width apart, maybe slightly wider. We're gonna come out with our knees, not forward or not in. And this is to keep our feet flat on the ground. So we always want our feet to be flat on the ground. So we're gonna come down to at least parallel, which means this leg is parallel to the ground. So it looks like this. Maybe that's a little lower. If we can get a little lower, awesome. Let's go for that. If we can't get quite to parallel without rolling up on those toes, first, I want you to check your form. Are your knees coming out or are they going forward? Because that could be the problem right there, right? So if our feet are pointed straight ahead and we're coming straight ahead with our knees, we're going to automatically roll up onto the balls of our feet, which is what we don't want. So that's why we slightly point them outward, and that's why we bring our knees out. So it keeps our feet nice and flat on the ground the whole time, which enables us to come straight up and down with our body. So, and what we don't want to also do is come in, which people tend to do when it gets heavy or you're struggling. So if it's just adjusting how your feet and how your form is, that's one thing. If it's a mobility, check out our Instagram page. I did put some mobility work on there to help with your ankles. So again, this is what our squat's going to look like from the front view, from the side view. Everything is straight up and down. Okay, so what is this arm extended weight thing? Well, this is what we're going to get into. So it's going to be like driving a car. We want our arms completely straight in front of us. We're going to be looking at the plate. We're going to keep that good form we just talked about, and we're going to just come down like so. So now some modifications. You can take two, which I don't have, but we can use these as an example. If you have two smaller weights, say you have two little dumbbells that are 2 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever, you can hold them out front of you like so. If you don't have a plate, you can also take, now this is a little heavy for this, but I'll do my best to show you. You can also take a dumbbell that's a little heavier than those little weights, hold them out, and come down. The other thing is, don't have any weights or you're just not there yet, but you want to add a little bit more to the squat than just an air squat, which is another modification. We can take our band, put it in our hands like so, around our wrists. We're going to pull out slightly, and you're going to feel that in your shoulders, and you're going to come down and keep that tension that whole time. Okay. Sit-ups. The good old-fashioned sit-up. We're going to come down. We're going to touch our toes, come back down, make sure that our core is engaged. We're feeling it engaged as we're coming up and down. Modifications to the knees, crunches, but without putting our hand behind our head. So we're going to crunch up and try to get to our shins here. So again, we want to avoid putting our hands behind our head, because when we do that, we tend to put pressure and pull on our head and neck, and that is just asking for neck strain and injury. So avoid that. Slam balls. So the slam ball should be a full body exercise. So it's not just with your hands, your arms. Come here, move out of the way so they can see. See, she put her ball next to the slam ball. You go do your slam balls over there. Okay, so we're going to grab with two hands on either side. We're going to come down into that full squat with our knees out, toes pointed slightly out. We're going to come down, grab. We're going to keep our chest always upward. Our back is straight. Our core is engaged. And we're going to drive up with our legs, pull the ball overhead, and we're going to slam it down on the ground. So again, you're keeping your core engaged. So we're not bending over to get the ball. None of this. You should come down into a squat. Keep that chest upward. Our back is straight. Our butt comes down. Again, not out. If you start feeling that lower back tension, that's probably because you're leaning over. When we lean over, we're also letting our shoulders likely are going to get loose. Our back is going to be loose. So we want to keep a nice flat back, chest up, come down into a squat, grab, and pull all the way up overhead till our hands are straight. Our arms are straight. Your hands can't be straight. Arms are straight. So if we want to speed this up, we're going to try to, as we're coming down, we're going to come down with the ball as we slam the ball down. So we're not slamming it from the top here. We're going to slam it as we come down, and we're going to follow the ball until it bounces on the ground. And in that bounce, that slight half-inch bounce it's going to make, you're going to grab that ball before it hits the ground again. So again, we're going to come down, and we're following. Ooh, I dropped it. You're going to follow it down like so. And again, you should feel it all in your body because you're squatting, you're keeping your core engaged, you're using your hands to lift overhead and slam back down. Get that aggression out from that hard day of work or kids, family, grocery shopping, whatever it is that stresses you out. So before we get into this, if you don't have a slam ball, you can use a dumbbell, and you're not going to slam the dumbbell on the ground. The only thing you're going to slam on the ground is a slam ball, hence the name, or if you have a med ball, you can use that as well. But just remember, the med ball is going to be much bouncier than the slam ball. Make sure you're keeping it in front of you and controlling it and not slamming it and let it bounce all over the place. Because then you're going to add some extra cardio in there because you're going to be running after that ball. So with the dumbbell, again, we're going to come down into that squat, chest up. We're going to just raise it overhead, come down, touch, and go. The other thing we can use is a plate and do plates overhead. So again, come down. You're not going to be squatting down as far because it's not as low. So the other thing I was kind of experimenting with is using a band. It's not quite the same, but we can come down, pull overhead, come down. So we're going to basically squat down, pull overhead. And so you're going to have to do, either 5 on each side or 10 on each side, depending on what you want to do there. Kettlebell swings. Kettlebell swings. So with the kettlebell swing, just go over the form first. So we're gonna set our feet slightly wider than hip width apart. We're never coming down into a squat. This is not a squat movement. I can't stress that enough. And it's not an arm pull either. So what it's doing is it's engaging, your legs and your glutes, your core, and using all of those muscles. It's going to drive the kettlebell upward. So we're only going to do American swings, which only come to about our eye height up here. So we're not going to swing, we're not going to do Russian swings where we're coming up all the way overhead. We're just going to come here. So again, slightly wider than hip width apart. If we have the kettlebell in our hand, we're going to come back and we're going to keep that chest up. And you see how my knees are slightly bent? They're not bent over. They're not bent totally over. We want just a slight bend. When we come back, we're going to bring our hips back. Again, our hips come back, our knees slightly bent, no more than slightly bent. And we're going to bring our arms back as we keep our back straight, our core engaged, and our shoulders back. And we're going to come as far back as the inside of our wrist to the outside of our wrist to the inside of our thigh here. We do not want to be touching anywhere above that wrist. That means you're going to be coming back too far. We don't want that. So we just are coming back to the wrist to the thigh, wrist to the thigh. And we're going to use our hip drive up, and that's going to swing the kettlebell upward. If you're trying to pull it, it's not going to get very far. It's not going to get very high. The more hip drive you have, the higher the kettlebell is going to go. If you're trying to pull it, it's going to put so much pressure on that back, so much pressure on your arms and shoulders. It's not going to feel great. So don't do that. Okay, so with the kettlebell, grab it with two hands, and we're going to swing back and up. And we're going to keep our arms straight the whole time. We're not going to bend up into that T-Rex position. The only time we really do that is if we're going to do a full Russian swing, which, we're not doing. So the other thing we can do is we can use a dumbbell if you don't have a kettlebell. So it's the same movement. You're grabbing with two hands, like so. The other thing you can do is if you have a band, now this one's a little thick. This is gonna look weird, but it gets to the point, So we're gonna keep everything. We're gonna walk out so that our wrists are in the inside, and we're gonna just come up slightly. It's just gonna simulate the same kind of movement if you have nothing else, or you're just not ready for weight. Now you can also go lighter with the weight, which again will help out as well. But challenge yourself. I guarantee you could probably do more than you think. And if you have the right form and the right drive, you'll get there. Okay, so next movement is going to be our leg lifts over an object. So we can use our slam ball, we can use our dumbbell, we can use whatever we want, really. You can set up a water bottle, whatever. So we're going to come back. We're going to keep our shoulders off the ground the whole time. You can put your hands underneath your butt just for stability purposes. And we're going to come and again core engaged and nice and controlled over the object. And remember, like I said, do not put your shoulders, you shouldn't be resting back here and just lifting your legs. Modifications would just be without the object, lifting up. Or you can kind of do double 1 and 1 over the object as well. Just keep your core tight. We could also take a band and put it over where our ankles are and do 1 at a time, keeping the tension with the band the whole time. Okay. Stay down here for this. So we're gonna do ab twists. Mia. So first, let's just go over where you should be. We're only keeping our butt on the ground for this. We're not putting anything else should be touching, just our butt. Cross our legs, get into a nice V position. And we're gonna go side to side, keeping that core engaged the whole time. So modifications would be out without the weight, just like I just did. Or you can have a weight, you can use a dumbbell, you can use a kettlebell, you can use a plate, and you just go back and forth. You can also use a slam ball if that's all you have. You're gonna actually slam it from one side to the other. So you're gonna slam it down, keeping it tight from one side to the other. The other thing that you can do, you can take your band and sit on it. Now you're gonna want it kind of tight, so you don't want a lot of tension on this. So you're gonna use this and pull it with straight arms, and you're gonna have to do 10 on each side. So that is all of the movements for today and the modifications. So now it's your turn to get started.